Welcome, everybody, to Noob Reviews. We review movies each and every week if there's a new movie to review that we both care about. Today, we're talking about Independence Day Resurgence. Terrible name, by the way.
I disagree.
We'll get into that. I think there's going to be some disagreements in this. We both saw it. We both have very strong reactions to it. John, why don't you go first? Overall, what did you think about Independence Day Resurgence?
Oh, gosh, you're going to make me go first. All right. Well, look, first of all, let me just get this out of the way. The original Independence Day, one of my favorite films of all time. It was a huge, childhood memory for me watching it when I was a kid. Big deal with me and my family. Just so many cool elements to it. It made me fall in love with the F-18 Super Hornet. At least I think that's the plane that's primarily featured in the film. Jeff Goldblum was so awesome. Will Smith, hilarious. Just so many things to love about that movie. Just like a great summer blockbuster in so many ways. And even now, I actually went and rewatched it recently, and I was thinking to myself, this movie is actually a lot more, emotionally driven and a lot more passion in it, a lot more heart in it than I remembered. Even though it is obviously kind of cheesy in some ways, and it's just a summer blockbuster at the end of the day. But that being said, the sequel has a lot to live up to. Most ways it falls short. Everything from the plot. The plot is overly complex. I did like some of the directions they were trying to go for, introducing the third party into the universe. They're trying to obviously expand it out a little bit, which I thought was pretty neat. But they brought it. I think honestly the biggest problems I had with it that kept it in my mind from being a great movie. It had just way too many characters trying to do too many things in too short of time.
Yep.
It literally, and if you read my review, which we'll post a link for it on here in the description, the movie falls short of running of greatness because it shortens itself literally in its length. It's literally 2 hours. The original was well over 2 hours, and it slowed down at times. There was a sense of real pacing to the film. Resurgence never slows down really for a second. It almost reminded me a little bit of Force Awakens in the sense that it was just very quick and moved from scene to scene, but not in the same way that you would like, because they would insert these characters that I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm just saying they inserted all these new characters, and a lot of them we have no idea who they are, why we should care about them. Independence Day originally did this much better by slowly introducing all the characters, giving them some backstory, and there was a little bit of a build and suspense to it. I knew it wasn't going to be the same thing. I knew they were going for a different direction, but ultimately just fell short of a lot of the same heart and humor and even down to the point of, there's nothing that really stuck out to me as well as the original did. They went so far and so deep and heavy and crazy over the top with some of those explosions in the original film, like when they blew up the White House and the Empire State Building. It looked amazing, all done with practical effects. But there's nothing really in this film that reminded me of that. It felt like a lot more of how Roland Emmerich has gone with his more recent films, like 2012 and Day After Tomorrow, where he just likes blowing up stuff and it's all very CG heavy. But yeah, it was a disappointment. But I personally still really enjoyed it, even as flawed as it was. That's where you and I differ, and you'll hear Ryan what he has to say about it. But yeah, here we go.
And coming off that, John, I have to take a deep breath because, as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will say, I'm about to lay the smackdown on this movie.
Is that what he says? No.
This movie was supposed to be a disaster movie. Instead, it was just a disaster. It was so bad, so terrible. I wish I could get a refund for my ticket. I wish I could. I might just go in front of the theater and stop people as they're trying to buy tickets, saying, please, I would rather you go see Alice in Wonderland 2 than go see this giant turd of a movie. None of the magic from the original film, and I mean none of the magic. As John said, Independence Day 1 is one of his favorite films. Independence Day 1 was also one of my favorite films. So I went into this movie ignoring the haters, ignoring the critics. I like to go into movie thinking, I'm going to like this movie. I'm in that mindset. The second the credits started to come up, started to roll the previews and everything, I'm ready for this. I'm getting excited. And what did I get? Introduction of forgettable character atop just such obvious references to the first one where it's not even like an Easter egg at that point. You're not appeasing the fans of the original. You're like, hey, look at me. I'm Will Smith's son. Did you know I'm Will Smith's son? I forget if you know I'm Captain Hillard's son. How many times in that movie did they have to say and reference that you're Captain Hillard's son? We get it. We absolutely get it. Yeah. Who is this Rain chick? Do we have to have a Chinese girl just to show that the world is together? Absolutely meaningless character.
No, they need a love interest for Liam Hemsworth's buddy.
Is that what they call it? Liam Hemsworth should have a love relationship with any other film besides this one. He should have never, ever even considered doing this movie. Plot was terrible. The CG was terrible.
Oh, come on.
The acting was terrible. The writing was terrible. I hate this movie more than I can even express.
Okay, wait a minute. All the films we talked about and our top disappointment sequels, all of those were clearly worse films, with the exception of some of the Matrix films, which we agree. Like Spider-Man 3, way worse than Independence Day.
I disagree.
No way. No way.
The only reason this movie wasn't number one on my top disappointments list is because we had not yet reviewed it. I did not want to cheat and put this on the list when we had not yet reviewed it, because that would have kind of given it away. But I can tell you, this movie, and I've bought a lot of movies on Blu-ray that were just okay. I have the prequels, and I'll watch them sometimes. They're bearable. This movie was the biggest disappointment to a fan of the original movie. Jeff Goldblum is the only reason why anyone should even consider seeing this movie.
At least we agree on that.
Even Jeff Goldblum was okay. Dr. Oken, I believe his name was. Okay, yeah. So he was... Let's be honest. He was dead in the first one. He was not in a coma. This isn't Days of Our Lives. We're not in a soap opera here. You can't just say, yep, he's been in a coma all these years and he's awake because aliens and reasons, and we want this weird character. And then it wasn't even the slightly odd Dr. Oken that was in the first one. It was like over the top, silly butt jokes of
what's
of
to
Dr.
say
Oken.
that just for the coma thing. Okay. What's to say that they couldn't have tried reviving him and then couldn't revive him, but because he couldn't come out of a coma state?
John, you saw that Secret Service agent check his pulse in the first
just
one.
watched it. Oh,
he was dead.
Maybe they revived him a little bit or something, dude. It's a science fiction film, remember? It's not based in reality in any sense.
I think at this point, his character, had it been real, would have preferred to stay dead. That's how bad this movie is. And I haven't even gotten to my least favorite part about how much I just see in this movie.
Okay, go ahead.
The first movie, explosions, blowing up these buildings, all these different ships. Right from the start, you get the ship coming over the moon, and you're like, in this, man, invasion happening. Look at all this cool action scenes. Here's what happened. You get half an hour of non-believable characters explaining how they like each other or how they don't like each other, how they're related. And then you literally just get a spaceship that just crashes into the earth. I'm just going to crash. We're not even going to land. We're just going to slam down to the earth, causing all this damage. That is would have happened no matter how you landed that ship. We're not going to shoot anything. We're literally just going to land this giant ship and start drilling, so that we knew they were drilling the whole time. That's weird. I don't remember anything like that happening. Oh, and the aliens had a crystal clear video of the president's speech from the first movie. They just want to watch that stuff they must watch it on YouTube. They must just love that president's speech that was clearly being recorded on YouTube for all of them to see across the galaxy. What's this magical orb? Look, a magical orb that wants to
It's not magic.
It's a magical orb. It's from a made-up race that doesn't exist. That was created as a plot device. You know it.
All right, hang on a second. So you have to keep something in mind with the film like this. All right, science fiction films. First of all, they do not necessarily stick with the laws of physics, the laws of logic, anything like that. What we nitpick at plot inconsistencies are not necessarily plot inconsistencies, more of they are options that plot writers can pursue if they so choose to do that. Some of the things that you've mentioned are perfectly feasible. It's the reason why you're upset about it is because you didn't like the execution. Because if there had been a third-party alien race that was brought into the sequence and had been done better than this odd orb out of nowhere, it would have been a lot more interesting. But the way they executed it made it lacking. Same thing for, you know, how the ship came and crashed. Like, that could have been done a lot better, but it's just the execution.
It's not, at that point, the ship crashing is not, the ship crashing is them saying, we wasted so much time on a worthless exposition piece. For the first 30 minutes of the film, nothing happened. Nothing. I really can't even tell you. They were on the moon and talking about things and meeting each other, and Bill Pullman's crazy.
Well, it's been 20 years. They have to have some kind of, they have to bring you up to speed to an extent. Every film has to do that, especially if it's set 20 years in the aftermath.
I'm telling you, it's 30 minutes of wasted time, and then all of a sudden it's like, crash, and then you don't get to see the whole. You know how many cool scenes I saw? 2012. That movie was flawed, but it was enjoyable because of how
it was enjoyable.
It had so many unique disaster flick type scenes. You know, waves.
Are you saying 2012 is better than Resurgence?
I am.
Oh my god!
I would rather watch
now you're way up on the deep end, sir.
I'm gonna go watch 2012 after this, just to have an enjoyable taste in my mouth after seeing the absolute
2012 was as ridiculous as this film. I'll grant you that. But Independence Day, the universe that you're dealing with, I mean, it's just so many different elements. Like 2012, it was just an excuse for Roland Emmerich to blow up the world like he really wanted to, and go back to the Ark for some reason.
But he does disaster so well, and he missed such an opportunity. Crash land ship, end of destruction, and and okay, you get through an hour, almost an hour and 15. I think it was even an hour and a half of this movie, and you're thinking, okay, I think I'm getting a grasp of who these characters are. Right. And then you have, David Levinson's father. All of a sudden, I was excited to see his character, and like, oh, look, he's on a boat, and here comes this big wave. That's
cool. That was one of my biggest complaints. Yeah, he should have died right there. He should have died.
Well, he should have died. That would have given Dave Levinson a reason to like want to fight back. But then, like, you say, okay, all the characters must have been introduced by this point. Oh no, here's these random 3 kids.
Yep.
Why did that happen?
I know.
Just so he can get a car and drive across.
I know. I agree. Hey, look, I agree with you on that. There were so many characters in this film that we did not care about, we did not want to see, didn't need to see, and I don't really know what they were trying to accomplish in that sense, really, because they literally did not give themselves even enough time if they wanted to introduce this many characters to actually flesh them out and develop them. But even what's worse is, like you said, most of them were pretty forgettable. I actually really thought that Liam Hemsworth was solid. I didn't think he was amazing, but I thought he was solid. Like, he seemed really bored in the beginning of the film, which was what his character was supposed to be anyways. But I thought his friend was kind of funny. President Whitmore, it was kind of odd because but I think that his story made sense. You know, somebody who's going to encounter that kind of depth of a connection with an alien, and then, you know, have all these fears and flashbacks and you know, visions of the future. I think his character made sense, even though I didn't like what they did with it. And it was also like they almost kind of teased us with his little speech, you know? Yeah. Because he started to give a speech and then he kind of ended it, and you're like, oh, was that our motivation speech? Because I
bet you it was in the script. He just read it and said, "Oh, this is going to be terrible."
I really don't understand why they cut it so short and why they had so many characters. To me, the movie would have been so much better without all these extra characters. They should have killed off David Levinson's father. They should have. They did kill off a couple characters, but yeah, you never get a sense of.
Rather have seen David Levinson and William Fichtner's character was actually enjoyable as
yes, he was solid, right? He's a solid actor. He's solid in everything he's in.
I would rather them make an Independence Day where literally them two are just talking back and forth than have ever even witnessed. My eyes should have been removed before I saw this movie. I would have enjoyed it more.
Okay.
I've never seen. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So at the end of the day, obviously, I disliked the movie. Obviously, you don't think it's great, but you find it more redeemable than not. So if you were to give it a score out of 10 and any closing comments, what would you say?
Well, I gave it, and it's in my review as well. I gave it a 7 out of 10, which I know sounds pretty generous. The reason I gave it a 7 out of 10 is because, and this is, I agree with what's his name from Screen Junkies who reviewed this film too. He said that there are things about this film that you will hate, and there are things about this film that you will love, especially if you're an Independence Day fan. I loved how they integrated like the new technology. I loved the dog fights. There weren't a lot of them. I needed to see more. I loved more of the aliens. I loved the new ships. I loved all the new technology and all the expansion of the universe. All of that to me is cool because it's like I said, and we talked about this before, I like more of what I already have seen before in the sense of I want to see more of it. I want to see it expanded on it. And for me, that film did it. I mean, it didn't deliver the execution that I wanted it to. It didn't expand on things as much as I wanted it to. It gave us too much at times. But to me, in many ways, it is the sequel I wanted, and it's also the sequel that I feared because it's such a mixed bag. It's really hard to enjoy it like you would want to enjoy it. So I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think it was good, not amazing. And I'm really, really hoping that they will do another sequel because,
oh God, please, no.
Because I want to see the franchise have a good finale, and I think they need to do that for our sakes as fans, because I think otherwise, if they were to leave it on that chapter, it would be kind of an outrage to me. So there you go.
Okay, well, I'm going to kind of quote the president's line from the first movie. I only changed it slightly different. I wish this movie had gone quietly into the night. This movie should have never been made or even thought of. I don't know how it got greenlit other than a cash grab. I am so disappointed that the actors that signed on for this movie gave it the time of day. The only redeemable factor I found in the movie really was Jeff Goldblum, and I would be happy seeing Jeff Goldblum in a empty white room talking to himself in a mirror.
I second that.
So that was, of course, I'm going to like that part. But besides that, there's not a single redeemable factor in this movie that I even kind of liked.
Not a single one? Not a single one. You literally like literally cannot think of anything positive.
Not a single one. In fact, in the last act, the last 25 minutes of a movie, which I've never done this in a theater before, when I'm literally sitting in the front row with the recliner all the way back, I started to nod off. That's how disinterested I was in this movie. I hope that nobody sees this movie. I hope it does poorly so we never see a sequel, because the sequel should have never been made. And to finish that off, I give it a 2 out of 10. Ooh. I would rather watch Tremors 3 times in a row, followed by Sharknado 4 than this movie ever again. I hope they even cancel the Blu-ray release. Let's just cancel the Blu-ray release.
No!
Not release it on digital.
My Independence Day Resurgence on Blu-ray.
It should be thrown behind a
If I want to watch it in my private home, I should be able to do that, darn it.
Well, you go right ahead. You're probably the only fan of the movie after this weekend, so you can write them and tell them how they can send you the original copy.
All right. Well, clearly, sir, it did not. It was not the cup of tea that you wanted that I enjoyed at the same time. But
definitely not my cup of tea. But to each his own. That's why we review movies. We're never going to. We're not always going to agree on our movies. We do agree on a lot, but no matter what, I have fun doing these reviews with you, though.
Yes. I have a question for you before we finish this.
Yes.
If there was a way to redeem the franchise in a third film, what would that look like in your mind? What in terms of maybe a plot or just something, obviously, besides the changes they need to make, but what do you think would make for an interesting third film?
Director who cares about artistic film, will actually do justice for it, and a film that is more grounded in reality. Because at the end of the day, in Independence Day 1, it was basically our current technology. These guys are coming in. What would we actually do in this situation? They tried and it didn't work. It was very much grounded. Obviously spaceships and all this, weaponry. It's not reality, or it may be someday. Who knows? But It's not reality right now, and it was very grounded in reality, whereas they just went full on fake futuristic, kind of the way that the prequels of Star Wars were like very shiny and CGI and weird effects. They need to do what Star Wars did with the newest movie and make it feel very real and use real sets and actual CGI with practical effects, not 100% and then some CGI, because the whole movie was basically CGI. Basically, they would have to redo the entire thing from scratch. I would almost rather them just reboot the franchise than keep continuing the franchise.
But then what if you get rid of Jeff Goldblum? I can't have Independence Day without Jeff Goldblum.
I can have a reboot with Jeff Goldblum. I'll forget he ever existed before, and I'll love him just the same. He is a gem.
I don't know if that would work very well. I'm not sure. I'd almost rather just see a different story of a different movie. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's I might go see it again soon. I never feel like I get a great, opinion of a film, negative or positive. I don't feel like I really grasp the film in the way that I want to until I've seen it probably twice. So I'm wondering if I might feel even more negative after watching it a second time or more positive or whatever. There was so much that happened in this film, regardless whether or not you liked it, so much that happened and so quickly and so many different side plots. It was kind of hard to follow, honestly. And I think that's why some people started to get feeling alienated. They were like, why should I care about this character? And
That's a pun, alienated.
I know, I thought about that. Yeah, it wasn't intentional, but yeah. Well, it's okay. But hey, this is pretty cool. It's our first movie review / whatever movie fight or whatever.
Yeah, and please, guys, please comment below. Let us know what you think, because I'm actually really interested to see if more people align with what John thinks, that it was okay. Maybe some of you really liked it, and maybe some of you agree with me that it's the worst thing that's ever graced the big screen. Yeah. But on that note, we have to wrap it up. Please like, subscribe, comment below, and let us know if you have any advice for us or any suggestions in the future for our show or any of our other shows that we do. And thanks for stopping by. John, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir. To you YouTubers, peace out, noobs.